Greetings and salutations. One of the main tenets of the United States Constitution is the separation of church and state. The founding fathers of this country were pretty clear in their belief that religion and government just do not mix, much like Brussels sprouts and peanut butter. They were so clear they put it in the very first amendment to the Constitution, not two, not three, but one, the first one. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. I don't know, seems pretty clear. The government cannot declare one religion above all others, nor can the government tell you who or what you can or cannot pray to. Clearly, the founders of the United States wanted to keep church and state separate, because when combined, the word of the government becomes the word of God, and that government becomes a theocracy and no longer a constitutional republic. A child could understand why that's a bad thing. A child could, but apparently not Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who this week, after watching way too many reruns of Bill O'Reilly's Fox News War on Christmas segments, decided to create the Department of Justice's very own Religious Liberty Task Force. Yes, The Hill reports that Sessions said the cultural climate in this country and in the West more generally has become less hospitable to people of faith in recent years, and as a result, many Americans have felt their freedom to practice their faith has been under attack. Sessions went on to point out that, quote, we've seen nuns ordered to buy contraceptives. We've seen U.S. senators ask judicial and executive branch nominees about dogma. We've all seen the ordeal faced so bravely by Jack Phillips, the cake guy. Religious Americans are no longer an afterthought. Interestingly, Sessions never mentioned or inferred anything about protecting the rights of, say, I don't know, U.S. Muslims from being spied on or targeted by law enforcement agencies. How curious. Today, let us navigate the divide between the church and the state as we start watching the Hawks.
If you want to know what's going on in your city, in your streets, never back down like Tyrell, and the truth is what you seek. To analyze, investigate from the bottom to the top. You speak your mind like Sean Stone, whether they like it or not. I got Tabitha, Miss Wallace, with the wisdom and the pearl. Between the outrage and the evidence, what's going on in this world. Watching the Hawks, watching the Hawks, watching the Hawks. Listen when they talk.
Welcome, everyone, to Watching the Hawks. I am Tyrell Ventura.
And I'm Tabitha Wallace.
So church versus state, Tab.
First of all, Jeff Sessions needs to stop bringing nuns into anything.
Ooh, nuns? No nuns.
Just to be clear right off the bat, no nuns were made to buy contraceptives for themselves. That's ludicrous. But I can see how Jeff Sessions wouldn't quite notice that. No, it was about the case that he's referring to was about a nursing home, a group of nuns in a convent that ran a nursing home. And they didn't want to, as Hobby Lobby, offer insurance to their employees that included birth control because they say religious liberty, whatever. I say it's silly.
Silly.
It's silly. It's not. This is the thing. You can't tell people that religion is about making the right choices and then make those choices for them.
Ah, interesting.
To me, that's a part of this religious liberty that's not there. You're forcing choices that you want someone to make from a moral stance that aren't yours to make.
It's interesting because what Sessions did this week in creating, this kind of religious liberty task force at the Religious Liberty Summit, makes sense.
Very creative, by the way.
Exactly.
Very creative. Nice.
It really put an interesting thing because the task force will be co-chaired by Associate Attorney General Jesse Panuccio and the Assistant Attorney General for the Justice Department's Office of Legal Policy, Beth Williams. You see them there. What's interesting about this, Tab, is that it really does, on one hand, they're kind of making the argument that we're separating church from state by enforcing the fact that the state cannot infringe on the rights of faith. Of people practicing their religion. That's like their argument. But many other people are saying, yeah, but by the state kind of focusing so heavily on this, you actually are bleeding the two lines.
Well, yeah, it's a government department within an agency that controls and decides whether or not religious liberty is being
Exactly. I mean, it is kind of this weird now gray area, and that's where this big debate is.
And that's the thing. It would be different if you said, look, this is going to be a whole setup of what's really going to happen. I know it sounds crazy, but we're going to have, people from different faiths making sure that we're whatever, we are going to have a Muslim, a rabbi, this. You had a bunch, and it was a board of people. But to say these two people who are clearly neither of them probably Muslim. I'm going to throw that out as a guess. I might be wrong. I could be wrong. But this is the thing about what it actually does.
Yeah.
So the force, what the plan is to help the department fully implement the religious liberty guidance it issued last year under session. So he's creating an entire task force to simply not follow laws, but guidance that he gave. So essentially walk around and wrap everyone's knuckles when they don't do what they're supposed to. So it's all about interpreting the religious liberty protections. Some of these include, the freedom of religion is a fundamental right of paramount importance expressly protected by federal law. The free exercise of religion includes the right to act or abstain from action in accordance with one's religious beliefs, which is the idea of not going to war or not giving birth control, I guess.
Or not giving cakes to
gay people.
Yeah.
Right. Americans do not give up their freedom of religion by participating in the marketplace, partaking of the public square, or interacting with the government. Now, all of that is perfectly fine, except what he's doing is going into the public square as government officials and telling people how and when they should be able to express or not express religious liberty.
And what's interesting in the debate between the church and state is you choose your religion.
Right.
You're not like you can be
I'm not born that
you can
way.
be born into it, but you as an individual make a choice. I'm going to worship this or I'm going to worship that.
Right.
Or I'm not going to worship anything at all.
That's the idea.
But, let's say in the LGBTQ debate and all of that, those people are born gay. I'm sorry. You're born gay. You don't make a choice at some point. I never made a choice to be heterosexual. I realized I was heterosexual and that's where I went. I never made a choice.
Right.
That option never came up to me. So, but church, you do make a choice. So that's very interesting because the problem is when church and practicing your religious beliefs does suddenly supersede on someone else's individual rights. That's where the whole problem comes in.
Exactly. And that's how it works. The fact, we're going on and moving on to new things. One of the things we had talked about earlier was this idea of unnamed sources. Yeah. Now, unnamed sources and mysterious reports from the unspecified U.S. intelligence agencies is nothing new. That is what the Washington Post revealed on Monday under the headline, U.S. spy agencies North Korea is working on new missiles, stating that the information is according to the officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe classified intelligence, even going as far to claim that, quote, senior North Korean officials have discussed their intention to deceive Washington about the number of nuclear warheads and missiles they have, as well as types and numbers of facilities, and to rebuff international inspectors, according to intelligence gathered by U.S. agencies. And yet, in the entirety of the over 1,200-word article, the only U.S. intelligence agency named is the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, which is a combat support agency of the Department of Defense, which is focused on the collecting, analyzing, and distributing of satellite imagery for the military, for natural and man-made disasters, and for security planning of events like the Olympics. No other agency is named. No U.S. government officials are named, nor is the source of this report that is the core of the narrative that North Korea is already planning to default on a new denuclearization agreement that hasn't even been made yet. Couple that with the fact that the images used by the Washington Post are from a company called Planet Labs Incorporated, a private corporation that provides satellite imagery to commercial and civilian clients. And you have a very strange narrative that actually contradicts itself. While it contends that the mysterious secret classified report, apparently based on imaging data easily legally obtained on the internet for a small fee, is the source, it also reminds us that the sources and experts don't even agree on the analysis. At least none that were willing to be named. So are we just going to keep gobbling up these dangerous narratives that threaten the most tried and true basics of diplomacy and peacekeeping?
Yes. Of course we are, Tim.
Great.
Of course we are.
Done.
Because that's how media and that's how everything works now is anonymous this and anonymous that, and somebody in the government whispered to this guy who told me this,
right.
And that must be the gospel.
It must.
As long as it pushes my agenda, it must be a gospel. Like,
Look,
that's
unless
how that
nuns
works.
were forced to buy North Korean contraceptives, I don't see why it's a matter.
Maybe that's next in line. You got to watch out these days.
You never know. You never know.
But it's amazing, this article. We were talking about it last night. Just how much it's completely based on hearsay.
It's completely on hearsay. And this is the thing that everybody then started repeating, and the tweets that started coming. 1 or 2 missiles. They're making 1 or 2 missiles, even though it never says that. The fact that the report or the article claims that it just doesn't even claim that their missiles are currently being constructed is false, according to the very images and assessments in the article. So they claim, the article claims that the reports suspect those buildings are still being used for this because they see people and trucks near the buildings.
Wow. People and trucks near nuclear buildings. I would imagine there would be. I can't imagine that they would suddenly just decide to let's take all the trucks home and leave a nuclear building,
Right.
a building with nuclear energy and it's just empty.
I'm like, well, we're going to dismantle all this stuff, but apparently magically it's supposed to dismantle itself.
Well, and the Sohae satellite launching station is in the process of being dismantled, according to both unnamed, again, intelligence sources, but the Washington Post piece claims that this is only symbolic and that it can all be rebuilt in a matter of months. So it's just really, don't trust the fact that it is being dismantled. The Kingston facility has not been confirmed as a site for uranium enrichment by European intelligence services or other agencies, and yet the broad consensus among U.S. intelligence agencies that Kingston is one of at least 2 secret enrichment plants. I remember them broad consensus. Those broad consensuses were all over the Wasco editorial board back in the old let's go into Iraq and Saddam at WMDs. I remember that very clearly.
Right, and remember it was 17 intelligence agencies.
Yes.
Which, by the way, if you believe that each one of those intelligence agencies really assessed the issue, then the geospatial agency also, you think, and that's the person you're going well, if they said it, I guess that's right. Would you want what satellite imagery is that going to help? Tyrell, I want to ask you this, Tyrell. One of the things that keeps getting brought up about this is this sort of cornucopia of contradiction that keeps happening.
Oh, yeah.
Is the idea that, North Korea is never going to give up their nuclear weapons. They're never going to totally disarm, which they weren't asked to totally disarm. But they're not going to do any of this because that would mean that regime change is on the table. Considering that, regime change has been a failure in every single attempt by the U.S. government.
Yep.
What do you think?
I mean, it's ridiculous.
So we should definitely go for regime change in North Korea, is what I'm saying.
Well, no, because I don't believe, even if we went in and let's say we bombed the hell out of North Korea and removed Kim Jong-un from power, we're not in any capacity to rebuild that country. We're not in any capacity to re-educate the people living there. We don't have the patience for it. You saw it with Iraq. We didn't have the patience to rebuild Iraq in any meaningful way. And that's why regime change doesn't work, and that's why you have to read between the lines when you see stories like this at the end of the day.
You should. Always.
All right. As we go to break, Hawk Watchers, don't forget to let us know what you think of the topics we've covered on Facebook and Twitter. See our full shows at RT.com. Coming up, author and speaker Dee Watkins joins us to discuss the controversy surrounding NBA superstar LeBron James and the opening of a new school in his hometown. Can't believe that's controversial. Stay tuned to Watching the Hawks.
S'il parle à quelqu'un, il risquerait de mourir ou de devenir fou. C'est un secret de l'Église.
A church secret indeed. Catholic priests accused of sexually abusing children can get away with it, quite literally.
I like to call this the geographic solution. So what the bishop needs to do then, he finds out that the priest is a perpetrator. He simply moves him to a different spot where the previous scandal is not known.
The highest ranks of the Catholic Church help conceal the accused priests from the police and justice.
Sua Santidad, en el caso Gracia, intentando influir a la justicia argentina.
Expose the truth. Protect the children. Expose the truth.
gifted professional athlete uses his fame and wealth to help out those less fortunate in his hometown. We've probably seen this headline about 1,000 times without the slightest whiff of controversy, but apparently if that gifted athlete is NBA superstar LeBron James and Donald Trump is president, this feel-good headline is now overshadowed by the firebrand partisan politics that dominate the political discourse today. You see, because despite opening a brand new elementary school in his hometown of Akron, Ohio for over 200 at-risk kids, the headline of the day has now become LeBron James blasts Donald Trump for using sport to divide the country. Why? Well, because CNN and Don Lemon choose to ask LeBron about politics rather than schools. You see, James, along with a host of other professional athletes, have spoken out against U.S. President Donald Trump's war with NFL players over the national anthem, which caused Fox News host Laura Ingraham to infamously declare,
"This is what happens when you attempt to leave high school a year early to join the NBA. And it's always unwise to seek political advice from someone who gets paid $100 million a year to bounce a ball." Oh, and LeBron and Kevin, you're great players, but no one voted for you. Millions elected Trump to be their coach. So keep the political commentary to yourself, or as someone once said, shut up and dribble.
Other things I could say about shutting up, but joining us now to discuss James Ingraham and what it says about the state of our infrastructure when we need sports stars to help fund elementary schools is author and educator Dee Watkins. Welcome. Don't you just love Laura?
I mean, keep your racism to yourself.
Right? I'm like, how about you just shut up?
So before we even get into Laura and whether or not LeBron is allowed to speak while dribbling, Dee, what does it say about the state of the country that kids in poor communities now need professional athletes to come and help them build proper schools and get them proper education?
So, number one, LeBron James is a global hero. This isn't his first time stepping up and doing what our government should be doing. Let's not forget, he's the guy who had the program in 2011, Wheels, Education on Wheels, or Wheels on Education, where he got kids bikes who were actually getting good grades in school. He also brought all the kids into school school supplies, and he made sure they had access to computers. Also, the same guy who used his money from dribbling a basketball to send 1,000 kids from Akron to college. Now he has this school where everyone who graduates from this school is going to be able to go to college. It's also going to have an extended school day. It's also going to get GED and job placement for their parents. So he's actually fixing the whole community. So anybody that would have anything negative to say about that, or who would take the time to bring up something as like corny as like our current political climate and a goofy president is, I guess they're looking for clicks.
Yeah. And I get it, but it's sort of amazing that that's the thing that people are focused on. It isn't just Laura Ingraham. It isn't just like Fox News and the right. It's CNN and MSNBC running down that same thing anyway. So,
but then she's lying too. So she's lying. Right. So he didn't try to leave high school yet. That's not true.
I know. Like, what are you even talking about? It's hilarious to me. I mean, $100 million. Well, you jealous that you can't do something? It's just weird to me that it's such a upsetting to her that you do that. Now, why? You know, first of all, he doesn't need to shut up and do anything.
Yeah.
Especially from a woman like that. Doesn't this kind of, Dee, in your opinion, doesn't this kind of like put a blow to the whole just shut up and dribble crowd when you see that he's actually going out? It's like, here, I'll build a school. Doesn't that sort of throw in the face of everything they say, that you don't do anything, get out of politics? And he's like literally writing checks and has receipts.
Well, someone like Laura Ingraham should understand that he also poured a lot of his money into this project himself. This isn't coming from like taxpayers, solely from taxpayers and other people. So that's one. Two, that man is at the top of his profession. He's an American citizen as a taxpayer. Yeah. He's a person who has a right to vote and a right to voice his opinion. So it's like, again, you go back to the same racism that would even give you the audacity in the news station. That's silly to sit back and let somebody say that he doesn't deserve to talk. Like, that's like slavery, racism 101. That's disgusting. And if you want to be a good person, or if you want to be a real news person, then you should step up and say, well, you know what? I told this guy to shut up and dribble, but this guy's actually making his community a better place. I've actually made nothing a better place. Not TV, not my career, not what I'm doing with my life.
Well, and that's the thing. It's very easy for people to kind of sit back and throw darts and throw arrows. You know, that's an easy thing that this society does, and you see that across the political spectrum. Everybody likes to throw shots. You know, but it's you can't do that when someone is putting their money where their mouth is. LeBron's standing up and do that. You can disagree with how LeBron plays basketball. You can disagree with how LeBron switches teams every 4 years. But at the end of the day, you know, as a community leader,
I like how he just slid that one in there. He's like just saying.
But as a community leader, he's stepping up.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is this idea of athletes or celebrities speaking out and being political or standing up. You have Muhammad Ali standing up saying, I'm not going to go to the Vietnam War. You know, they ended up taking his title and championship away. This is old. This is an old dance in the United States. Why do you believe there's such pushback against people who aren't, quote unquote, in the political sphere or aren't lawyers or bankers or businessmen who step up and say, even if it's right or left or whatever their politics are, but who do step up and say, no, I have a problem with this and I'm going to call you out politically for it? Like, why is there such pushback against that?
I never thought I would say this, but like, you know, maybe they're discriminating against him because he actually makes money. I mean, he's black and he makes money because Joe the Plumber got a whole segment. You listen to Joe, remember this Joe the Plumber guy who got on TV and made up things about his business and things that he was doing that he actually wasn't doing, that he actually wasn't in position to do. And this guy became a Fox News superstar. Right. Then you have a person who's actually, you know, you can fact check him all day long because, you know, everything he makes and does is public record. Right. But he shouldn't be speaking, you know, because we need to know what Joe the Plumber has to say. Like I said, it's all sad, and all of the negative attention distracts away from the fact that, you know, this young person who didn't have, you know, the best upbringing, remember where he came from, remember the problems that he had as a young student, and is doing something to change the narrative. And so many athletes who are watching this, they're going to step up and they're going to figure out what they want to do to make a difference too. And this is how we build community. And we need it now more than ever because of our education secretary, Betsy DeVos, knows nothing about education. She ran a string of failed charter schools in Michigan, but yet she gets a chance to, you know, create education policy, and nothing good has happened.
Well, and that's the interesting thing about it is like I was asking, it's like it's a weird time to be living in your country where you see celebrities doing more to better situations than you see your own country. I mean, even say a lot of people don't like Sean Penn, but he actually went down to Haiti and did a lot for that country in the post-hurricane and built a company that now goes around the world doing that. LeBron James, other people. I hope that you mentioned fellow athletes. One of the things I hope for is that there's huge competition between athletes, right? Wouldn't it be great then if you suddenly see them trying to top LeBron? Yes. He built an elementary school. You know, I'm going to go build a college. I'm going to go build this. You know, that would be amazing. But it does say something horrible about the state of our country right now.
Trump's coming back with Trump University.
No, there we go.
Right. He tried that already. It didn't work so well.
Yeah.
Well, I think part of it is when you have a celebrity president, then it sort of brings it up that everybody, like, oh, celebrities are bad, and so they're all trying to run to fix certain things. But at the end of the day, this is one of those situations where he didn't just throw some money in something. He didn't just show up to cut a ribbon. Yeah. This is a really well thought out project for that specific place. It isn't just this whole, like, you know, whatever, I'm just going to go in and build a park. So LeBron School, the I Promise School, it opens Monday for 243rd and 4th graders, and the school will expand sort of year by year and get bigger and bigger, I think, as they can, like, grow until it's eventually by 2020 it'll be grades 1 through 8. So, you know, we look at this LeBron versus Trump and, like, this idea that, you know, Laura Ingraham said, you know, well, millions of people voted for him, as if the rest of us who didn't vote for him all stopped having an opinion.
And he still lost the popular vote.
Yeah, I'm like, millions did, but millions more actually voted for Hillary, even if you don't like her. So, you know, it's one of those things. But do you think this is a cultural problem or a news problem? Is this some problem, a right or left political issue, or is this just news? There's just infection of news.
I'm not gonna blame news. I'm gonna blame racism because it's rooted in racism. You know, shut up and dribble is code word. You know,
it is.
It's code words.
Dance monkey dance, and we all know what that means.
She called him. She made it the point to call them both unintelligent. Like she made it the point to say these things, and I feel like if Tom Brady built the school, she would have a different tone.
God. Completely.
You know, is he a Trump supporter? That's up in the air. Like I hear he is, I hear he isn't. I don't know, but I'm saying that if Tom Brady built the school, he would be a hero. It would be like the best thing that ever happened. But because it's LeBron James and because he's not a fan of the president, like most Americans aren't, that's proven. Yeah. You know, that it becomes like this ridiculous, disgusting problem.
It is. And I think that we're letting politics get in the way of that. That's the problem. Like here you got somebody who stepped up and said, look, I have more than I ever could possibly need, you know, money-wise, and I'm going to give back to my community. And now you have that person then being ostracized, not for that action. I don't think anyone's going to come out and say, oh, he shouldn't have built the school. But anytime, but even then, they change, like you said, they change the conversation to be about politics and then ignore the fact of what he's done for this community. And that other people should also be picking up that mantle in any way you can. You know, that's the biggest thing. We all have to give back in any way we can. I don't have LeBron money, wish I did, but I'm still going to try to give a little extra dollars to the folks on the street that I walk by in the morning who need it. Like, I mean, that's
the thing. You have to do what you can, and whether that's buying books for schools or, you know, giving a little bit to help artists as they're growing and things like that. There's these little things that we can do, and if you have millions, you should be doing things like building schools, not giving millions to politicians for TV ads.
Thank you.
So that's my thing. I think it is a cultural problem to an extent in that we would rather put money in a politician than in a school, in a community. That's sad.
That's a really good point. Yeah. D. Watkins, always a pleasure having you on to talk about this. Always, you know, can't wait to have you back on next week.
Yes. So, a joint study between the ITMO University in St. Petersburg, Russia, and the Laserzentrum Institute in Hanover, Germany, theoretical physicists tested how the Great Pyramids of Giza would interact with electromagnetic waves. And while their findings won't shock anyone who's seen season 1 of Ancient Aliens, it is surprising the science community. It seems that the pyramids are capable of concentrating electromagnetic energy within the inner chambers and within its base. These findings mean that the Great Pyramids of Giza could ultimately help scientists create new kinds of nanoparticles that could be used to produce highly efficient solar panels and sensors far beyond what we have available today. Just think, we might learn the key to clean energy from a 4,500-year-old, 456-foot stack of rocks that's been labeled a tomb until now. Turns out that a structure believed to be a place for the dead is probably the key to life on Earth.
Man, I can't believe, man, Ancient Aliens coming true.
They were right all that time.
That's pretty incredible. All right, that is our show for you today. Remember, everyone in this world, we are not told that we are loved enough. So I tell you all, I love you. I am Tyrell Ventura.
And I'm Tabitha Wallace.
Keep on watching those hawks out there and have a great day and night, everybody.